That night, Seoul's sky was clear with scattered stars, though the spring chill still bit at the skin. Yin sat silently in her car, staring ahead at the tall, elegant luxury mansion where Jungkook lived with his parents. Her heart was pounding, her hands trembling slightly despite the deep breaths she kept taking to calm herself. Oh God, why am I this nervous? It's not even a graduation defense, she muttered to herself with a nervous smile. Yin tried to steady her heart. Jungkook had reassured her many times that his parents were kind people, especially his father, who always looked warm in the family photos Jungkook had shown her. Still, this was her first official visit as a future daughter-in-law. Not long after, Jungkook appeared. He walked briskly toward her car, flashing the familiar smile that never failed to melt her heart. Instantly, Yin opened the car door and stepped out. "You're right on time," Jungkook said, reaching for her hand. "Come on. My parents are already waiting for you in the dining room." Yin gave a sheepish smile. "I feel like I'm walking into a thesis defense, you know?" Jungkook chuckled, gently patting her hand. "If it were a thesis defense, your professor could give you a bad grade. But these are my parents. They're eager to meet you. So, just think of it as a slightly different kind of romantic dinner." Yin winced playfully. "A romantic dinner with two judges staring at me intently?" "Yin." Jungkook stifled a laugh. "They're not that cruel, I promise." As soon as Yin stepped into the Jeon family mansion, the aroma of delicious food wafted from the kitchen. In the dining room, Jungkook's father, Mr. Jeon Eugene, was already seated with a welcoming smile. "Ah, you must be Yin. Welcome, welcome." Yin quickly bowed politely. "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir." His eyes were filled with warmth as he nodded. Beside him sat Mrs. Jeonjia, Jungkook's mother. Her face was graceful with the refined beauty of a high-class Korean woman. Her smile seemed pleasant, yet Yin sensed something different. The smile didn't feel entirely genuine, as if a thin veil was covering her true feelings. "Welcome, Yin," Mrs. Jeon said, her eyes sharp before softening into another smile. "Please, have a seat. I hope you'll enjoy tonight's meal." "Thank you, ma'am," Yin replied softly, sitting on the chair Jungkook had pulled out for her. Dinner began with light conversation. Mr. Jeon warmly asked about Yin's work at her father's insurance company. She answered calmly, though nerves still lingered. Jungkook chimed in with light-hearted jokes every so often, easing the atmosphere. Yet Yin could still feel Mrs. Jeon's subtle, piercing glances, as though something was being concealed behind her smile. After dinner, Jungkook took Yin for a walk in the mansion's back garden. Garden lamps lit the stone path, and the faint chirping of crickets filled the night air. "So?" Jungkook asked, holding her hand. "Did you feel comfortable?" Yin smiled faintly. "Your dad is very kind. I can see where you got your gentle side." Jungkook chuckled. "And my mom?" Yin hesitated, then decided to be cautiously honest. "Your mom seemed polite, but I felt her smile was a bit stiff." "Stiff?" Jungkook raised a brow. Yin quickly added, "But maybe it's just me. I was nervous, so I might have been overly sensitive." Jungkook squeezed her hand gently. "Hey, baby, don't worry. I know my mom can come off as cold at first, but once you get to know her, she's actually very loving. You'll see. Besides, don't worry, she's never once opposed our relationship." Yin nodded, though her heart still carried an indescribable unease. 3 months later, the long-awaited day finally arrived. Yin and Jungkook's wedding was held in a grand hotel in central Seoul. Crystal chandeliers, white floral arrangements, and classical music filled the atmosphere with beauty and solemnity. As Yin walked down the aisle in her flowing white gown, tears nearly welled in her eyes. At the altar, Jungkook stood waiting, his eyes glowing with joy. The ceremony went smoothly, vows exchanged, rings slipped onto fingers, and their first kiss as husband and wife drew thunderous applause from the guests. "I can't believe we're actually married now," Yin whispered once they sat at the wedding table. Jungkook clasped her hand tightly. "Believe it, this isn't a dream. From now on, you're my wife, and I'm your husband." Yin let out a shy laugh, her cheeks flushed. "You sound so dramatic." "Dramatic or not, I mean it," Jungkook said with deep sincerity. "I'll love you every single day, until we grow old together." His words made Yin's heart tremble. In that moment, she truly felt like the luckiest woman in the world. After marriage, Yin and Jungkook's life was sweet, as if a brand new chapter full of happiness had opened for them both. They lived in a modern penthouse in Seoul's elite district of Gangnam, a tall building with wide glass windows overlooking the Han River. A maid named Aunt Hyeon, a kind and diligent middle-aged woman, took care of their daily needs. She cooked healthy meals, kept the penthouse spotless, and even managed the weekly shopping schedule with meticulous precision. Her presence made their lives easier, freeing Yin and Jungkook to focus on their careers and their dreams for the future. Mornings in Seoul were always busy. Gangnam streets bustled with luxury cars, the sound of honking horns, and pedestrians rushing to their offices. Usually, Yin left earlier for her father's company, a major firm in the insurance and investment sector. Park Financial and Insurance Group. The company was recognized as one of the most influential financial institutions in Korea, with investment networks extending to Japan and the United States. As the only daughter of the Park family, Yin was being prepared as the successor. Meanwhile, Jungkook was also building his path in his own father's company, Jeon Motors Corporation, a giant in the automotive industry that produced luxury and eco-friendly cars. As the only son, Jungkook was the heir who would carry on the Jeon family's legacy. Sometimes Yin drove to the office in her own car, but more often, Jungkook was the one who drove her. And every time their car stopped in front of the Park Financial lobby, there was always a moment that left Yin blushing. Like that morning, when the car had just halted, Jungkook leaned over quickly and stole a brief kiss from her lips. Jungkook, Yin tapped his shoulder, her cheeks burning. You're embarrassing me. What if someone sees? Jungkook only grinned mischievously, his eyes sparkling. Let them see. I want them to know how much I love you. I'm proud you're my wife. Yin sighed, but her lips curved into a smile she couldn't hide. Employees passing by the lobby glanced at them with envy and admiration. Yin covered her face with her hand, while Jungkook laughed in triumph. Sometimes Yin felt Jungkook never truly grew up. Even though he was now a young director at Jeon Motors, in her eyes, he was still the same man he'd been in college, full of sweet surprises, silly antics, and a love that never stopped warming her heart. At night, the penthouse turned tranquil. From the master bedroom, the lights of Seoul glittered like a sea of stars. The curtains were half open, allowing the soft neon glow to slip inside and reflect off the crisp white sheets. Yin lay on bed reading work reports. Jungkook, freshly showered, came out with damp hair, wearing a loose white t-shirt. He walked over and deliberately flopped onto the bed beside her with exaggerated force, making the mattress bounce. Oh my god, you. Yin frowned, trying not to laugh. I almost highlighted the wrong line in this report because of you. Jungkook leaned closer, sliding the documents out of her hands. Enough reports for tonight. Now, it's my turn to get your attention. Yin looked at him in disbelief. You're always like a child. But you fell in love with this child, didn't you? Jungkook whispered with a sly smile, pulling Yin into his arms. Yin laughed, finally giving in. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. For a while, there was only silence, broken only by the faint sounds of Seoul drifting in from outside the window. I'm grateful, you know, Jungkook suddenly whispered, his tone serious. For what? Yin asked softly. For every single day I get to spend with you. I don't need anything else, he said, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Yin stayed quiet, then smiled faintly. Her heart felt warm. That night, before sleep claimed them, they shared not only an embrace, but also the certainty that their love was the most beautiful home they could ever have. Yet behind that happiness, Yin slowly began to notice something. Every time they visited Jungkook's parents' mansion, Mrs. Jeonji's demeanor had changed, no longer as warm as their first meeting. Her gaze felt cold, her smile forced, and although she remained polite in front of Jungkook, Yin could sense a faint dislike. Yin never complained to Jungkook. She knew how much he loved his mother and how his mother doted on him. Yin didn't want to ruin that bond, so she chose silence, though her heart was filled with questions. What did I do wrong? She often asked herself inwardly. That afternoon, they were visiting Jungkook's parents' mansion. The Seoul sky glowed in shades of orange and gold. Sunlight poured through the mansion's wide windows, casting silhouettes of the neatly trimmed trees in the backyard. The air was fresh, typical of a clear day afternoon. Leaves sparkled under the sunset light, making the garden look like a living painting. Dad's in the back, he said he wants to try some new oolong tea, Jungkook said as he started toward the back garden. Do you want to come? Yin turned toward the corridor that led to the kitchen. From there came the scent of clear broth, seaweed, and garlic. Comforting, yet it made her heartbeat quicken. Something about it felt different. I'll see Mom first, she said with a faint smile. She's preparing dinner. I'd feel bad if she had to do it alone. Today, the mansion's maid was away visiting her hometown for a few days, leaving Mrs. Jeon to prepare everything by herself. Jungkook nodded, his fingers brushing Yin's cheek tenderly. All right, I'll be out in the garden. Call me if you need backup, or if you need a handsome butler. He winked playfully. Yin let out a snort of laughter. A handsome butler who only knows how to eat, not help. Hey, I'm a professional taste tester. Dangerous job, Jungkook replied in a mock-serious tone. My fee is expensive. Yin shook her head, her small laugh breaking the tension. Before she took a deep breath, she smoothed down her hair, then walked toward the kitchen. The kitchen looked like it belonged in an interior design magazine, polished walnut cabinets, an induction stove with a pot of soup steaming gently, and a glass display shelf lined with antique ceramic dishes and cups. On the island table, side dishes were neatly arranged, bright red kimchi, spinach namul, and a plate of still warm bulgogi. Mom, Yin greeted carefully. Can I help with something? Jia turned. Her smile was thin before she returned to arranging plates. You came. Her tone was flat, not harsh, but distant. No need, I'm almost finished. Yin stepped closer, eyeing the pot of seaweed soup. Miyak guk, Jungkook's favorite. Yes, Jia answered shortly. He likes it. Yin swallowed, trying to stay relaxed. Then at least, let me set out the spoons and chopsticks. Jia didn't reply. She only slid a plate of japchae to the edge of the table, then glanced at the display shelf. Be careful with that shelf. She paused. Antique. I'll be careful, Mom. Yin nodded quickly. She turned, moving toward the cutlery cabinet. One hand tugged at the drawer, the other holding her breath to keep from feeling awkward. From the corner of her eye, she caught the shimmer of a bluish-white ceramic piece on the shelf, a small vase patterned with clouds. So beautiful, she whispered, admiring it without touching, just looking. She pulled open the drawer, and it slid out too fast. The edge of the drawer nudged the shelf ever so slightly. Time slowed. The shelf trembled. One ceramic piece wobbled, teetered, and fell. No, no, no. Yin reached out to late. Crash. The sound cut through the air. Silence bloomed. The vase lay shattered in 3 neat pieces, like a perfectly broken heart. Jia turned sharply. Her once blank face stiffened with tension. She approached, lifting the largest shard with trembling hands. This was my mom's collection, she said quietly, her voice edged like metal. Bought in Bizen years ago. The blood drained from Yin's face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I truly didn't mean to. Jia's eyes were cold. There's plenty of space in this kitchen, and yet you managed to touch the one thing you shouldn't have. Yin bowed her head, her hands clasped together. I'll replace it, no matter the cost. No matter the cost? Jia let out a bitter laugh. Its price was years, Yin, and money isn't what I want. Yin looked at her, bewildered. Mom, why must you always be here? Jia cut in, her voice low but biting. Why must you sit at my table, live in my house, linger in my family's space? Everything becomes unsettled because of you. Mom, you don't want me here? Yin's voice was barely audible, almost to herself. You are an intruder, Jia said, her gaze hardening. Just like your mom. Yin froze. The words slapped harder than any hand could. Mom, what do you mean? Jia glanced at the broken shards, then at Yin. Something burst inside her. Rage or fear long suppressed. Your mom was a cheap woman. Do you know that? A cheap woman. The universe stopped spinning. Yin didn't remember how her body moved. She didn't remember how heat surged through her blood. Her trembling right hand rose swiftly and the sound of the slap sliced through the air. Jia staggered a step back. Her cheek reddened instantly. The two of them stared at each other, their breaths uneven, Yin with wide eyes, as if only now realizing what she had done. All this time, she had endured being treated coldly by Jungkook's mother, but the moment her own mother was insulted, her body moved instinctively. Meanwhile, Jia's initial shock slowly turned into a blaze of fury. Yin. The voice came from the doorway. Jungkook. He stood there, eyes burning with restrained anger. What did you just do? Yin stepped back, her mouth open, but no words forming. Jungkook strode in, his gaze falling on the broken ceramic, then on his mother's reddened cheek, before locking on Yin. How dare you slap my mom? His voice was low, trembling with an anger greater than words. Jungkook, Yin tried to speak, but the words caught. Fear prickled in her chest. She had never seen him this furious. Explain, Yin, Jungkook hissed, his jaw tight. Now, for the first time, his voice rose in a harsh shout at his wife. Meanwhile, Jia pressed her cheek, holding back unshed tears. At the doorway, Mr. Jeon appeared, his eyes wide with shock and weary, as if waking into an old nightmare. Calm down, Eugene said softly, gripping Jungkook's arm, trying to ground his son. Breathe. Jungkook, control yourself. I'll take your mom to our bedroom, He cast Yin a brief glance, not accusatory, not blaming, but a silent request for patience. Jungkook clenched his fists. "I will speak to Yin," he said coldly. His father nodded and led Jia away. She looked back once, her gaze a storm of hurt, resentment, and exhaustion, before disappearing down the hall. Jungkook seized Yin's wrist, not roughly, but with tense force. He pulled her upstairs, past family portraits lining the hall, until they reached a wooden door, his childhood room. Once the door shut behind them, silence detonated. "Why?" He stood tall, his chest heaving. "Why did you slap my mom? Even my dad has never done that." Yin remained silent. "Why, Yin?" Jungkook's voice rose again. "Because your mom insulted my mom." The words finally burst out. Yin looked at him, her eyes hot with tears. "She called my mom a cheap woman." Jungkook froze. "My mom said that?" "Yes." Yin nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I broke that ceramic by accident. I just wanted to help." Then the shelf got nudged, and the vase fell. "Your mom was angry. I understood. I apologized, and I said I would replace it. But then," she covered her face with her hands, "I couldn't stay silent when my mom was insulted." Jungkook turned away, taking 2 restless steps, as if searching for a wall to lean on. Why? Why did this happen? He bent his neck, rubbing the back of it in frustration. Yin wiped her cheeks, taking a breath. I don't understand either. Lately, your mom, her attitude toward me has changed. In front of you, she smiled. But when it's just us, she turned cold. I didn't want to tell you. I know how much you love her. I didn't want to ruin your relationship." Jungkook closed his eyes. He was utterly confused. "I have to talk to them." He opened the door, his steps quick, almost panicked. Yin followed to the doorway, then stopped, feeling unworthy to intrude further. Her hand gripped the doorframe, her body trembling, before she finally decided to retreat back into Jungkook's room. The mansion felt wider than usual as Jungkook walked to his parents' room. He pushed the half-open door. Inside, Jia sat at the edge of the bed, her cheeks still faintly red from Yin's slap. Gyujin stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder, the other pressed against a heavy breath. "Mom," Jungkook said hoarsely. "Why?" Jia didn't answer. Gyujin looked at his son, then slowly lowered his gaze. "Jungkook, there's something you need to hear." Jungkook tensed. "What?" Gyujin looked at his wife. In that look was a long apology, a history never fully buried. He sat down on a chair beside the bed, fingers interlaced. "This will sound insane," he said slowly, "but the past doesn't always stay in the past. Sometimes it sits at our dinner table and knocks its knees against the same chair." Jungkook looked between his father and mother, impatient. "Dad, just get to the point." Gyujin drew a long breath. "Yin's mom, Lily, was my ex-lover." The words fell like a stone into a pond. The ripples slammed the walls, echoed back, over and over in Jungkook's ears until the room around him seemed to spin. "What?" He squinted, as if a fog crept under the door and covered half his sight. Jia closed her eyes, her voice bitter. "When your dad and I were newly married, he came home drunk several times. He called Lily's name, again and again, even in his sleep." "Mom," Jungkook whispered, barely audible. Time passed. Gyujin continued, staring at the floor. "I tried to forget. I tried to love your mom, and I did. We built a family. We raised you. But when you brought Yin for the first time," her face was so similar. He swallowed. Jungkook rubbed his face harshly. "So, Mom, you were angry at Yin because she reminds me of that old wound." Jia cut in softly but firmly. "Because every time she smiles, I feel like I'm seeing proof that I was once the second choice. I'm ashamed to admit it. I wanted to bless you both, and I tried. In front of you, I tried to be warm. But every time she passed by, my heart hardened. And when that ceramic broke, I exploded." Silence devoured the next few seconds. Jungkook slowly stepped back, his spine nearly against the doorframe. "Mom, Yin is not at fault." "I know," Jia said, her eyes glistening. You don't know my position back then, having a husband, but his heart was not with me. And when that memory resurfaces, the pain still lingers. There was even a time I almost wanted a divorce, but your dad stopped me. And Lily, back then, she still kept hoping for your dad even after we were already married. I once considered not giving my blessing to your relationship with Yin, but I couldn't bring myself to destroy your happiness." Gyujin lowered his head, voice heavy with regret. "It's all my fault. I'm the one who wounded your mom, a scar that remains to this day. We married because it was arranged, and you can imagine how complicated things were." At the doorway, Yin stood frozen, unintentionally overhearing the end of the confession. She covered her mouth with her hand, shocked. Lily, her mother's name. All she ever knew was that her parents had been arranged and later grew to love each other. She had never known there was a story hidden behind her mother's marriage. Jungkook turned, and his gaze met Yin's. In that second, a flood of emotions passed. Anger, confusion, pity, love, fear of loss, all collided. But what remained on his face was a firm resolve. Mom, he said again more softly, I love Yin, and Yin is not her mom. She is not the past. She is my future. Jeon looked at her son, the boy she once held through fevered nights, the boy she fed seaweed soup on his birthdays, her only child she had always been proud of. Her gaze softened. I never forbade you to marry her. I never wanted to destroy my son's happiness, but I need time to accept all of this. Jungkook gave a small nod, then turned to Yin. Come on, he said quietly. They returned to Jungkook's old bedroom. Yin sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her own hands. I'm sorry for slapping your mom. Jungkook knelt in front of her, taking both her hands. And I'm sorry for yelling at you. I was shocked, baby, angry, then confused. I never imagined you would do that. He paused, gazing deep into her eyes. But from now on, I promise I'll listen to you more. And please, don't ever hide anything from me again. Don't bear it alone. Tears welled up in Yin's eyes, stinging sweetly. Thank you. Jungkook lifted her hand and kissed it gently. I'll resolve this, not with shouting, but with courage, with sitting down, talking, and if necessary, crying together. Yin gave a short laugh through her tears. Sounds like an emotional board meeting. The board of directors of Jungkook and Yin's household, Jungkook replied, attempting a smile. Their hands stayed clasped, holding on to one another, seeking comfort and giving strength. Yin took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she would apologize to her mother-in-law, not because she was entirely at fault, but because she wanted to open a door that had long been locked by someone else. Jungkook, she said softly. Yes? Thank you for choosing me, even after you learned about my parents' past here. Jungkook lifted his head, looking at her with sincere eyes. Because none of that is your fault, and it isn't mine either. You are the woman I chose from my heart, for my present and my future. I will choose you every single day. Today, tomorrow, and if I must, I'll make that choice 100 times over. Yin smiled. That's an expensive promise. Jungkook leaned forward until their foreheads touched. And I will always keep that promise. They fell silent for a moment before Yin finally spoke softly. Tomorrow I want to apologize directly to your mom. Jungkook shook his head gently. Not yet. Tonight we'll head straight home. We won't stay over. For now, it's better to give my mom some time to calm her heart first. Yin nodded obediently. If her husband had said so, then fine. She would follow. And so, they prepared to return to their penthouse that very night. Meanwhile, in their bedroom, Jeon sat in silence. On her lap lay the ceramic shards that Gyujin had swept up earlier, now neatly placed inside a small box. It can be fixed, Gyujin said, as if answering the question weighing on his wife's heart. Jeon nodded. It can, but the cracks will always remain. Cracks don't always mean weakness, darling, Gyujin replied gently. Sometimes a crack is the path that allows the light to be seen. Jeon gazed at the box for a long while, then slowly closed it. How ironic, she thought, that fate would play with her life in this way. 2 weeks later. The sole afternoon sun streamed through the penthouse's wide windows, bathing the living room in warm golden light. Yin sat on the sofa with her laptop on her lap, but her thoughts drifted far away. Work at her father's company had piled up, yet her mind kept returning to the incident at the Jeon family mansion 2 weeks ago. She had wanted to meet her mother, or at least call her, and talk about this matter, but she deliberately held back. She wanted to prepare her heart first. Dealing with her mother-in-law had been burden enough. She didn't want to overwhelm herself further by confronting her own mother. One day, the time would come when she could ask her mother directly about everything. She closed her laptop softly and rubbed her face. Since that night, she hadn't returned to her in-laws' home. Even Jungkook seemed cautious. The two of them kept their distance, as if waiting for the wounds to heal. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening broke the silence, and Jungkook stepped inside carrying 2 grocery bags. I'm home, he called cheerfully, trying to lift the mood. Yin gave a faint smile. What did you buy? Ramayan, fruit, and Jungkook lifted a package of Yin's favorite strawberry cake. This. Yin chuckled softly. You really know how to fix my mood. Your husband is the full package, Jungkook declared with exaggerated confidence, making Yin snort in amusement. But after the laughter faded, Jungkook sat down beside Yin, his expression turning serious. Yin, my mom wants us to come for dinner tomorrow. Yin's heart skipped. Tomorrow? Yes, my dad told me. He said mom is, come now. She wants to speak with you properly. Yin bit her lip. What do you think? Before she answered, she wanted to hear her husband's opinion. Jungkook took Yin's hand. I know this isn't easy, but if we keep avoiding it, the problem will never end. I'll be by your side. If anything happens, I'll be the one standing in front. Yin stared at him for a long moment, then nodded softly. All right, I'll come. The following evening, they arrived at the Jeon family mansion. In the dining room, the long table was neatly set with small candles flickering. The aroma of galbi and warm soup filled the air. Jia sat at the far end of the table, while Gyujin welcomed them warmly. Welcome, Gyujin said. Please sit down. Tonight, your mom herself prepared everything. Yin quickly turned toward Jia. The woman gave only a thin smile, not entirely cold, but not yet warm either. Dinner began in silence. Only the sound of chopsticks and spoons echoed. Jungkook occasionally tried to lighten the atmosphere with jokes, but without much success. Until at last, Jia set down her chopsticks and looked directly at Yin. Yin, she said softly, I want to apologize. Yin froze. She hadn't expected to hear it so soon. I've treated you badly, her mother-in-law continued, her eyes glistening slightly. I was angry not because of you, but because of the shadow of the past that clings to you. You knew nothing of it, and you don't deserve to bear it. Yin lowered her head, tears brimming. Mom, I want to apologize too. I slapped you, and that was my fault. I couldn't stand hearing you insult my mom. Jia closed her eyes briefly and drew a deep breath. Those words should never have left my mouth. I was jealous of something long gone, and I took it out on you. That was cruel. Gyujin placed a gentle hand on his wife's shoulder. Darling. Yin finally gathered the courage to look at Jia. Mom, I want us to truly be family. I love Jungkook, and I also want to love you. Silence hung for a moment. Then, for the first time, Jia smiled sincerely. It was not stiff, not forced, but genuine. You are a good girl, Yin. Perhaps all this time it was me who needed time to understand and accept the fate life gave me. But from now on, I will accept it. Jungkook exhaled in relief, then let out a small cheer. Finally, I thought I'd have to write a family drama script just to bring you two together. Everyone chuckled lightly, melting the tension that had long weighed over them. But beneath it all, Gyujin was the one most crushed by guilt. Not guilt toward Yin, but toward his own wife. His indecision long ago in choosing his path had ended up breaking the women's hearts. Lily, the woman he was forced to leave, even though he had loved her deeply, and Jia, the wife chosen for him by his parents, who bore so many wounds in silence. A woman who had done no wrong, yet had to carry sorrow. Now, however, everything had changed. Gyujin truly loved his wife, and together they had Jungkook. Yet fate seemed to toy with his life, weaving irony into his past and present. Still, they all had to learn to accept it. 1 week later. It was Sunday, and the Park family's living room felt warm. The large window overlooked a small garden full of spring flowers, the sunlight filtering through thin curtains and casting a soft glow across the marble floor. Yin and Jungkook sat side by side on the long sofa. Across from them, Lily, Yin's mother, sat calmly, accompanied by Minho, Yin's father, who watched the moment with wise and understanding eyes. The air in the room was filled with mixed emotions, tension, tenderness, and the hope that the truth would finally come out. Yin gripped Jungkook's hand tightly, then spoke softly. Mom, I want us to talk honestly. I want to know what really happened in the past between you and the Jeon family. Lily took a deep breath. Her fingers intertwined, her face lowered for a moment before she looked up at her daughter with trembling eyes. Yes, it's true, Lily said quietly. In the past, Gyujin and I were lovers. We were forced apart because Gyujin's parents arranged his marriage to Jia. At that time, I couldn't fully accept it. Sometimes we still met, and that made Jia angry. Jungkook swallowed hard, while Yin bowed her head, her chest tightening. But Jia wasn't wrong either, Lily continued more firmly. After all, Gyujin had already married her. It was me who couldn't let go, until finally, I was arranged to marry your dad, Minho. Lily turned toward Minho, her eyes brimming, and that's when things got better for me. Your dad, he accepted my past with an open heart. He never judged me, he never shamed me. With his sincere love, he helped me finally forget Gyujin and start a new life with him. And eventually, we had you, Yin. Yin bit her lip, tears falling uncontrollably. She felt the bitterness of truth, but also its warmth. The first time I saw Jungkook, Lily continued, gazing at her son-in-law with gentle eyes, I was shocked, and it was hard for me to accept. But in the end, I chose to accept him. For your happiness. Yin. I pushed aside my ego and old wounds. I never intended to bring up this story again. Lily drew a deep breath, her smile bittersweet yet genuine. But in the end, it was Jia who opened that wound first. And now, I'm grateful. Even though our fate is strange, even though the past is complicated, we can all finally accept it. Minho, who had been silent, finally spoke. His voice was calm yet full of authority. What matters now is no longer the past. What matters is that we learn to accept it and protect the family we have in front of us. Yin. Jungkook, your future is in your hands. Don't repeat your parents' mistakes. Learn from our story. Yin nodded through her tears, while Jungkook squeezed her hand even tighter. That day, in the Park family living room, not only was the truth finally revealed, but a new acceptance was born, that even though fate sometimes twists in strange ways, love and the courage to forgive can keep them all together.